Okay, so hello and welcome to today's live stream. I would normally be starting today off with coffee, but instead I'm starting today off with Jolt Cola because it's going to be a long day. I'm going to try a wired connection after last week's difficulties, and so hopefully this will go a little bit better. Cool. So I'm going to talk through what we're going to be doing today since it's a little different than what I normally do. Normally, we're focused on creating open source pull requests or reviewing open source code in the Apache Spark project. But today, we're actually going to look at sort of a more meta type project where we're collecting sort of diversity type information about participants in different open source projects. And this is in advance of JupyterCon New York, where myself and a friend are going to be giving a talk on this. And so let's go and look at the talk abstract, and then we can go and start looking at some other things. So let's go ahead and start that party. So I think Control 2 will do it for me, except Control 2 also hotkeyed somewhere else. Oh, and I also just saw an interesting message. I'll be right back. Just gonna... Oh. Hello. Just for funk. Yay. Okay. So at JupyterCon in August, I'm going to be talking about what things are correlated with gender diversity in open source projects, a dig through ASF and Jupyter projects. And hopefully people can learn some ideas for things which might be correlated with higher levels of gender diversity in open source projects. And we can try these out and see if they're causal. And so essentially, if people are interested, they can look at things that projects which have more diversity are doing, which are maybe different than the average project, and we can try them to see if it actually encourages it in other projects. But the first part is we need to measure which projects have different levels of diversity, so that we can see which projects are doing better and which projects are perhaps not doing quite as well. So it's going to be myself and Matt. We're going to be talking about this there. And actually, I was talking with a coworker who's interested in joining. Oh, yes. Hi, Francesc. I just didn't want to say name just in case. Yay, friends! Okay, cool. So that's the talk that we're going to be working on. And because I'm lazy and believe in the best way to get work done is to do it poorly and put it on GitHub and hope other people come in and try and nerd snipe my code. This is obviously on GitHub, Holden K, Diversity Analytics. And actually, so the idea for today's stream came when I was talking with Anne last week, where we were sort of spitballing some ideas about how to move the project forward. And this is just because I tend to be very deadline driven, so adding intermediate deadlines work out better. And so this is where the Python notebook is. There's some other pieces of code in the repo as well that you can go and look at. We haven't really been using the issues to track our progress. I probably should. But if you have ideas or things, please feel free to make an issue, and we can try and work together and make things more awesome. I'm going to just actually double check that this is actually showing what I think it's showing really quickly. Yay, it is. Okay, cool. That's exciting. Cool. So without further ado, let's dive into the notebook and start working on some of the data collection. So this is kind of a hack, and this is just because there's this really weird bug in PySpark with how classes get serialized when they're defined in a top-level notebook. And actually, my friend Cricket found this bug, and she made the bug report. And I think we have a fix for it, but it's in Spark 2.4. But since I'm running this on Dataproc, and I wanted other people to be able to contribute to this project, I figured I would stick with a release version of Spark, so we have kind of some weird hacks here just to make sure that we have these classes in a way that can be nicely serialized. Cool. That's great. So, right. In addition to sort of like information about the projects themselves, like things on GitHub, I thought it might also be interesting to look at like meetup data. And one of my coworkers has some interesting data around Stack Overflow in BigQuery I was going to try and integrate. But for now, we're going to skip that part. Or accurately, for now, we're going to focus on just information that's in GitHub and in the Apache sort of people frame. Oh, cool. And we have our first traceback. Oh, interesting. Did I not run the imports? Do. Okay, there we go. So I forgot to run the import cell, which is why it failed. And so this sc.add file that we're doing right here is being done to take this lazy helpers file and distribute it to all of the workers. And that way, when we serialize the lazy helper class and it gets deserialized on the other side, it can actually find the required objects. And sorry for the sound, I like fidgeting with things, and so this is a really cute little stuffy that I'm fidgeting with while I'm working. So we'll go ahead and we'll do that. And this is a thing to determine if the project is on GitHub. This is filtering for Apache projects, because I think when I started this, not all Apache projects were on GitHub. They might be now, though, but nonetheless, there's no harm in doing the filter first. So we'll go ahead and filter for projects that are on GitHub, figure out the users. So these aren't just like all of the committers yet. We haven't yet pulled in like the Git data. These are just like committers and PMC members, and so those are like sort of the people who are in charge of deciding what code goes into a project and deciding the culture and organization of an individual project. And so I think one of the things which would be really interesting to see is if the makeup of the PMC group or the committer group is reflected in the makeup of the contributors, right? Since in theory, the committers come from the contributors, and it's sort of a pipeline. It would be interesting to see if there's drop-offs in that pipeline of where we lose certain amounts of diversity. And so this is just sort of a kind of crappy debugging practice, but since I'm working with a distributed system, when I run my code like this, it might not necessarily give me the errors, or there might be errors on the workers that I'm not seeing. And so one of the things which I do commonly is I just do a take one, and I just do this to like validate that like the first record at least looks kind of reasonable. We're gonna skip the meetup data for today. Well, I'm gonna talk through what's happening here, and we'll run it. If it's working, that's great. If it isn't, we'll just skip it because it's not the main focus of what I want to get at. The main thing that I want to do is make sure this Friday, Anne and I are going to sit down and do some sort of budgeting, because one of the things we want to do is make sure that the data we collect is reasonable, and to do that we want to do some sampling so we can validate that our methods are actually sound. But part of that involves figuring out how many people are involved in the sample. So these are some hacks, and this is just because getting the meetup data could take a really long time, and I don't want to just have to wait before I can run more cells. So I kick off threads where they kick off these individual RDD actions. And so this just will kick off these jobs in the background in my Spark process. For now, though, I've just commented it out because we're not going to be using the meetup data. But this is kind of an interesting practice. There's actually first-class support for this in Scala Spark. Like you don't have to manually use threads. It's the async stuff. I'm pretty sure this doesn't have any corporate secrets. Yay, it doesn't. So we can go look at that really quickly, just as a quick detour. And so in Scala, async RDD actions is built into Spark, but we never did that for Python. And that's for a variety of reasons that aren't overly important. Someone proposed adding it, but since we wanted to focus on data frames, we thought it didn't make the most sense to put our time there because it was a little complicated. So I have kind of a hack job here to just do it myself. We'll skip ahead. This is the part where it makes the Git URL for a specific org and project, and then we fetch the GitHub data. And so this is the part where actually I'm gonna go ahead and make this a little larger. So we use this library called Percival, and it's really cool. And actually some other people have done different types of analysis about open source projects with it. Let's actually bring up their, not what I want. Yeah, is this the one? Yeah, send Sir Percival on a quest to gather and retrieve data from software repositories. So these people clearly have a lovely sense of humor, and it really, I mean, that's not how you should decide which software projects you use, but I don't mind anything about that. And we can actually see there's a new release from yesterday, so we might want to update. And you can see it pulls data from a lot of different places. In this case, I'm just focused on GitHub because I'm kind of lazy. Actually, this is a good issue that we can add. Look into extracting the information from the ASF Jira. Percival supports Jira, so we could probably and this is just, even though like right now I'm the only developer actively working on this talk, the issues are just a way for me to keep track of the own things that I want to do. But also, you know, if other people want to contribute, it gives them ideas of places where they can get started with us. So that's cool. Fetch project get data. Yeah, okay. So yeah, let's go ahead and run this. Okay, so there is a good chance this might fail. I don't know. Let's see if this works. Okay, it did. That's kind of cool. And now this is sort of the first thing, which is actually going to take a while. And so this is actually kind of interesting, right? Like up here, we said like these are all of the things that we care about, but you know it didn't really do any work until we called take one. And so that's just because Spark is lazily evaluated. So it's not going to do anything until we actually force it to evaluate. Even though we use persist here to keep the data around, because we're going to want to be referring to it multiple times, only once an action occurs, in this case take one, does anything actually happen. So that's cool. We take a look at this and it says, yeah, here's a git commit. Okay. One of the other things I was thinking about doing is we could augment this like person information with like Crunchbase info. We're gonna skip that for now because it's really super slow. So we're gonna skip that. We can see, you know, because it's super slow, I was using the it's super slow, but I'm using the non-blocking code. So there's no harm in running it. So let's go ahead. We'll run that. Oh yeah, we can see that my Crunchbase information is a little bit out of date. Oh, cool. So the question is, how do we measure diversity? So for the talk that we're doing at JupyterCon, it's very much focused on gender diversity, and that's just because it's one thing, and there are many facets that are interesting, and so we could look at other things, but by picking one thing to look at a time, my life becomes somewhat more manageable. And the how do we decide on the gender of the contributor is actually a really good question. There's a lot of different techniques that we can use. The classic one is sort of a first name based inference. And as someone whose first name is Holden and I identify as a woman, the online computers say that that's a male name. And that makes me kind of sad because it undercounts me. Some of the arguments for doing that approach are that, it's valid because it's about how this person will be received in the community, and that is, perhaps not untrue. Often people perceive me as male, even though, I'm a woman. But, that's not ideal, especially when you start looking at things like committers or PMC members, where it's like no longer just going to be based off of like sort of a first brush at what the name codes to culturally in someone's head. And so the plan to do this was to do a combination of name-based inference, but then also do a random sampling of looking at the GitHub profiles, trying to find matching Twitter profiles and other things like this, and picking, statistically valid random samples to try and be able to say what the gender is of people. And it's not going to be great, right? Or let me rephrase it. It's not going to be perfect because, that involves using humans to look at things. And as someone who, the gender is often guessed by humans incorrectly, there's a bias there. Yeah, right. So we can all experience this, or not all of us, but many of us can experience these challenges. And so the idea was to use essentially a combination of statistical sampling with humans and also automated inference with like information from like historical census data in terms of what names mean. And if these two like give us very diverging results, like that's a thing that we should be aware of. And that'll probably put a very large asterisk on it. But if they give us sort of similar compatible results, that would perhaps be an okay sign that, like, while these techniques aren't perfect, at the sample sizes we're dealing with, they're okay-ish. And so that's sort of the approach. That being said, if other people have ideas for how we can improve this, like if there's other things that we should be doing for measuring this, I would love to hear them. And actually, all of this talk about gender has just reminded me that I should take my drugs. Oh. Well, I can take 2 of these, and I'll take the rest of my drugs later. Okay. Right. And so, yeah, Crunchbase has my gender correctly. Company name is incorrect. One of the things which I've been meaning to try and do is seeing how Crunchbase records information for non-binary people. That's a good issue to add. Just if we're going to use this as one of our data sources, we should actually figure that out correctly. So that's cool. So this was just run locally, mostly just to make sure that, it works. As you can see here, I use a bunch of kind of like really sketchy parsing stuff to get the results. It's not great. My theory is that if there's a Crunchbase entry for someone with that name, and there's an instance of the name of the project that the person is associated with, it's probably the right person. And I was actually going to change this. to include the Crunchbase information. Crunch. So let's go ahead and put URL in there. And that way, if we give it to humans to validate, they'll have an extra data point to go look at. And it looks like I got an exciting opportunity to add an exception. Okay, cool. No such file Chrome driver. That's great. Yeah, okay, whatever. Oh, fuck. Or sorry, let me rephrase that. Oh, fuck. Yeah, I thought it was in the path, but maybe it's not. Oh, damn it. Okay. The last time I ran this, it worked, so that's confusing. It's possible that I restarted my cluster, and since then, I put Chrome driver somewhere else. So we'll go ahead. I'll fix this really quickly if I can. If I can't, we'll just skip this crunch information for now. So we're going to go insert, cell above, and I think I have an SSH connection open to this. Cool. So that's cool. Cool. Oh. That's great. Oh, damn it. Okay, whatever. OS. Yeah. Following cell. os.env. Path. Is it OS environment or is it sys.environment? Python OS environment. Cool. Oh, it's like environ. There, that's, damn it. I'm gonna insert a cell just because this is annoying to have to keep scrolling. Insert cell below. Cool. Weird. Okay, cool. This is kind of a hack and specific to my system, but also whatever. For the purpose of unblocking today, that's okay. So we just, we have to point this at the Chrome driver path, and then we can get the information there. I should really figure out how to update my Crunch profile. Cool. That looks solid. Better than nothing. So we'll go ahead and we'll take that function that we made locally and we will run it across. We're just doing it for the committers and PMC members right now, because I feel like the number of contributors in Crunchbase could kind of get to be a large number, and I feel like we're more likely to get hits on committers and PMC members in the Crunchbase information, but I'm not sure. So once again, we can see we've run this, we've got a data frame back, but it hasn't actually done any of the work because it would take a really long time to do this work. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to call non-blocking save. We're going to switch this 1 into a 2, and that's cool. So that should kick off a Spark job, and that will just go and do its thing, and it looks like we got a bunch of exceptions. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. Because the the path thing that we just did only impacted the path. Here, it didn't impact it in other places. Okay. Path hack. Do 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 do. Cool. And so this is I guess an interesting side note. We can see that the path variables are not like serialized across the wire. They're based inside of each system. It's actually possible that the worker computers don't have the Chrome driver installed on them, which would cause this error message to keep happening. Oh, cool. The output path already exists. And this is a little frustrating in Spark. The output path will be created even if it's not successful. And that's annoying to me because then I have to keep changing this number each time I run it or go in and delete the output. But yeah, it looks like it's running now, so that's good. This was a place to sort of output the information that we do have about the Apache people into a CSV file so that we could start giving it to humans. But I'm going to skip some of that today, actually. You know, I could have sworn I already rewrote this into NLTK somewhere else. So I'm wondering if I'm working with an old version of my notebook. Let's go ahead and look at what's in the repo. Because if I'm using an old version of my notebook, that's going to be a little bit annoying, but it's also not the end of the world. And that would also explain why that path thing just came up. It's also possible that like I dream wrote code, which I sometimes do. Yeah, it looks like I probably dream wrote that code, so that's cool. We're going to rewrite the tone analyzer because I no longer have free access to the Watson tone analyzer. We're not going to do that today though because it's 11, and I really want to get to the part where we're processing, where we get the, all of the different contributors in Git, because that's going to be useful for this Friday when we're trying to figure out what kind of budget we need to do reasonable random sampling for the different projects. So we're going to go back there and keep going. Oof. Okay, we'll skip our tone analyzer. Okay, yeah, so this is some stuff to fetch the mailing lists. And there's for the Apache Software Foundation, there's this sort of belief that, or at least official belief, if it didn't happen on the mailing list, it didn't happen. And that's, not always true, but it means that a lot of the communication is on the mailing list, and you can tell a lot about a project's culture from the mailing list, and it's really normal that the first action that you take as a new interested developer is like looking at the developer list. And sometimes what I've heard from certain projects is that like some developers have looked at a project's mailing list and been like, oh no, this is not the community for me. So I'm really interested in seeing if, maybe different tones or communication styles on the mailing list are correlated with different amounts of gender diversity. That being said, we're gonna put that one aside for now, because the mailing list stuff is cool, but not the part I want to do. I want to go and focus on my GitHub data. Oh, actually, wait. Did I already get the Git data? Did that work? Oh shit. Maybe it worked. Okay. So the Git data's here. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. So this is a commit. That's cool. That's the author date. We can see who committed it. And this is actually one of the other things that I think would be really fascinating to look at. So I'm going to write this down as well. Or maybe not really fascinating, but important too. Look at active committers versus non-active. But the other one, which I think is interesting, and this is less from a gender standpoint, but more from like a general ASF standpoint, is look at company links in committing code. Although this could actually also be maybe perhaps not a sign of like gender diversity, but openness of project. If you often see committers just from the same company only committing other code from people from that company, it means that it's going to be more difficult for new people to break in because they might not have committers at their own company. So I think this would be interesting to evaluate as well, just as something that might be correlated. I mean, maybe not, but you know, it's a theory, and the nice thing about this is I can test a bunch of theories, prove myself wrong, and then that still work. So mini list GitHub project RDD. We're going to go ahead and turn this RDD into a data frame. And that's just going to be because it's going to be easier to work with a data frame here. So let's go ahead, insert cell below, That's not good. So this is just a warning, but just a warning is probably not something I should put in this code, given that, you know, I'm a Spark committer. I should probably not use old deprecated things, but I'm going to be lazy and I'm going to get the schema. Does this look right? This looks pretty reasonable. Okay. I'm actually going to go and grab something really quickly on my phone. But that's annoying. I really like this feature. Oh, use PySQL.row instead. Okay, I mean, that's fine. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and double check what... Ah, wrong one, sorry. So Python, PySpark, SQL. It's probably going to be in types.scala, maybe not. Class row is of type tuple. Okay. Yeah. So there's asdict. Is there a fromdict? Because that would be super convenient. Well, I think that might work. Okay, well, that worked. Cool. But this is nice because it tells us like, hey, what's up? This is kind of what your data looks like. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to do insert cell below. Oof, this looks, damn it. There's actually another project which I'm working on where we did a little bit of work to improve table visualization inside of Jupyter Notebooks, because this is ugly. But that is okay. We see a project name and a bunch of other things. So the main thing which I promised and that we would have for Friday is an idea of the number of people who are working in each project, and we'd have the information so we could start doing some random sampling, and we could try out a few different options for random sampling to collect the data. So let's go ahead and make that happen. Oh wait, no, I keep meaning to check my phone. Be right back. Okay, whatever. That's fine. Nothing's caught on fire yet in my world, so I can keep working. Booth says hi. Okay, so we are going to... We don't really care about the UUID, but... we do kind of want to get the idea of authors and projects. We also probably want to keep the author date as well, because one of the things that we were thinking about is if there's too much data overall, we can just go ahead and limit ourselves to like the past quarter or the past year's view. And that was because Apache number of contributors, 2017, yeah, the ASF statistics page, yeah, well, we can see there's a lot more contributors, but if we limit ourselves to just one quarter instead of all time, we can have a lot less data. I feel like GitHub is kind of a cheat committer. That's going to be interesting. We're going to want to take a look at that. Figure out what's going on with that. Oh yeah, okay. I'm going to make another note to myself. Record project languages for comparison with language diversity, gender diversity, sorry. Statistics from SO and other sources. Language diversity usage. Language gender diversity usage statistics could come from... Oh, what does ** row mean? That's a great question. So I think it's called the splat operator in some languages. Python splat operator. Yeah. Okay. So, okay, in Perl 6 it's called splat. In the Python tutorial they use the phrase unpacking argument list. And so essentially what it means is that here it's expecting this like named argument list. And what I actually have is I have a dictionary. I don't have a bunch of named arguments. And so I just essentially say, hey, treat this dictionary as if it was this named argument list for me. And so that, just does the trick. Cool. I hope that helped. Okay, right. So I'm going to finish writing this note to myself. Stack Overflow survey or other sources. Cool. Okay, cool. We're going to go back to my notebook. And we're going to... So I care about the backend name. I don't give a shit about right now. Oh, that's interesting. I'm using the backend version 10.2, and Percival is released 0.10.0. Oh, what? That's confusing. They just released 0.10, but I'm getting backend information of 0.10.2. Yeah, that's weird. I mean, it's possible that I screwed up something earlier, but that's not overly important provided the other information is there. So I am mostly interested, I want the project name. We want the author. For now, that's really all we need, is the project name and the author. Is that true? Is that true? Oh, is it going to let me do data.author? Let's find out. Cool. And so that's just because this is inside of like a nested structure. And so there's data, and inside of it is the author. Oh, I do care about the date. Timestamp is annoying. Timestamp is very annoying. I mean, we could... There's like a lot of other things that I'm going to care about later. Like, for example, git commit messages. We could do sentiment analysis on it. But for this Friday, this is pretty much all I need. Although this is all just one person. So that's cool. We're going to go ahead and go into data frame, distinct. Yeah, that seems reasonable. Boop. And so this distinct is going to take a lot longer to run because this is going to effectively do a giant shuffle. And this is going to force it to evaluate everything, and this will give me a nice break to drink some more Jolt Cola. Although actually this is perhaps a good interlude. Even though I've been doing things like take one here and stuff like that, that only forces evaluation on one partition. And that's cool. It's better than nothing. But, you know, our data here, I actually have manually forced it to have about 400 partitions. And that's because I want us to actually have parallelism in fetching of the data. Scroll back down to wherever it is that I ran that command. I don't know. Okay, yeah, so it's still running. I'm gonna go ahead and check on some other things really quickly while this runs. Oof. Okay, well, that's still taking some time. I'm kind of wishing that before I ran this, I printed out what the Spark master was, so that I would know which port to connect to it on. But I didn't, so that's on me. I'm going to switch this into the Be Right Back screen really quickly. I'm going to go poke around and find my Spark master. I just have to access some parts of the console, and I don't remember if the version that I have is private or not. So I'm just going to play it safe. I'll be right back. Do. Okay, I'm actually going to go ahead and do this with SSH shuttle. That's not the one I want. Okay, it's start jump. So I use a jump host sometimes, but I want to double check that this is actually going to be the right... Wait, if config is not found? The right subnet range. Yeah, that looks like it's the right subnet range. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to use SSH shuttle. And this is... Oh, I probably actually have to run that as root, given that it messes with my route table. Cool. Yeah, sure. Oh, he's not so happy about that. Okay. It looks like my jump server... Let's try this one. Client is connected. So SSH shuttle is supposed to prompt for sudo, but it's not updating my route table, it looks like. That's not a great sign. Let's SSH to... Cool. I'm going to double check that I can ping the master host in my cluster. Yeah. Okay. It looks like they're on different VPCs, so that's not a happy time. That plan is not going to work out super well. I guess the other option that I can do is set up a SOCKS proxy. I don't really like doing that, though. I'm pretty lazy. So we're going to just hope this thing finishes soon, although it looks like it's not. Damn it. My laziness gets the best of me sometimes. Okay. Let's go ahead and look up the Jupyter data proc. There's an SSH port forward. Creating SSH tunnel. So that's the one we're going to jump down to, and we're going to go ahead and do this. Tree Cloud Compute, Holden Magic M. It turns out that I don't actually have to specify the other things. They'll automatically get figured out because I don't have a bunch of different clusters. Cool. So now I have a SOCKS proxy on port 1000. Oh, okay, cool. I can launch a separate version of Chrome. Although I don't want it to talk to port 8123, but that's all right. Chrome. Wait. Yes. Okay. Oh. Clear. So we're gonna use this one. Magic incantation. We'll hope it works. Yay! So this is now connected to our socks proxy, so it can go ahead and talk to our cluster. Then we're gonna go ahead and that's not a great sign. That being said, let's try. Oh, it looks like these directions are not super happy. Open failed administratively prohibited. So it looks like the socks proxy is currently not allowed to run because I'm probably running a different version of SS. Damn it. This is what happens when I customize my shit and then it doesn't work quite the way I want it to. Button. Let's hope that this thing is finished. It's not. That's just getting frustrating. We could do this in async mode. And I feel like that might actually be what I need to do. Since this isn't going anywhere. Although that... the host resolver... Yeah. Let's make sure. Whatever, we can try the full copy paste party, and then if it doesn't work, not my fault. Zoom out a little bit. Holden dash magic. Yeah, okay. That's... Cool. Let's try this. And if this doesn't work, yeah, that's sad. It looks like the socks proxy is not cooperating today for reasons that I'm not super sure of. So we're gonna just go ahead and go in here. Oh yeah, this is the one I wanted. We're gonna actually go ahead and just interrupt this cell. And we're gonna go find our async option stuff that we made up above. And we're gonna use this non-blocking data frame save on it instead. And that way we can go ahead and we can actually still like poke at stuff. We don't have to just wait there forever. Yeah, okay. Non-blocking save, df target. Yeah. Oh, right. In this format, FS FS prefix is just because sometimes I do this work locally on my laptop when I'm dealing with small sample data. And when I'm dealing with the big data, I do it in a cluster, and I just want to be able to switch between the prefixes really quickly. So let's go ahead and find this. It looks like actually we probably need to move this cell up a little bit. Distinct authors by project. So what information is in data.author? Yeah, it gives us the name and email address. So this will overcount a little bit for people that switch email addresses, and we can deal with that one a little bit later on. But I feel like this is an okay start. So let's go ahead. As we can see, my spelling is terrible, but this runs immediately because Spark is lazily evaluated. There we go. Cool. That's fine. Insert cell below, and then we're just going to go ahead and we're going to lazily save this out into distinct authors by project. Oh, actually, I do kind of want the commit date as well, but then I don't want it. Okay, we're actually going to go ahead and get a second piece of information as well. We're going to get commit date, and we're going to change our distinct call into... Distinct only works on the entire data frame? That's frustrating. Yeah. No, not what I need. So, okay, yeah. Well, okay, so we're actually going to rewrite this. Oops. Okay. Authors by project. Because our fallback plan is only thinking about people who are like recently active, I want to compute that at the same time as well. So we're going to go ahead and distinct authors latest commit. So then we're going to go ahead and we're going to do Dute, and we're going to do a group by project name, author, let's double check the group by syntax. Since I switch between the languages all the time, this is my excuse for always double checking the syntax. That looks great. So we're gonna go ahead. We don't want average. We're gonna look. Is there the grouped? Okay. Group data, and then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do an aggregate where we select the max of this date. So dot ag. Yeah. Oh yeah, we definitely. So we don't want to use the Python max. That's not going to be the right max. So let's go ahead. We'll add this to our import statement up above. Yeah, because we're gonna. Well. I feel like whatever. We'll deal with this later. We could import it, but then I might want to use the internal Python max. So we'll just import it as f, and we can use f.max, and we'll rewrite that later. Scroll down here to wherever it is that we were doing this work. And so we take f.max on commit date. Cool. And let's find out what I did wrong. Okay, cool. Oh, cool. Oh, yeah, this is not Crunchbase out. This is now distinct authors latest commit. Cool. There we go. Attribute name max commit date contains invalid characters. Oh, do I have to give it an alias? Probably. Maybe that's alias latest commit. Cool. So that looks pretty solid. This is going to go kick off and run in the background, and later on when we want to come back to this. Oh shit, I almost dropped my cola all over my computer. That would be a very, very sad end to today's live stream. And so this will give us a sort of the distinct authors by commit, and we can also, if the number of distinct authors for each project are too big to be able to afford to do random sampling with humans, we can look at just committers within the last quarter or two and use this to go from there. Not committers, sorry, contributors within the last quarter or two and go from there. So that's been, I guess, a little bit over an hour. And that's normally about as long as I like to do a quick live stream for. But, you know, just if you happen to be in New York, you know, please definitely come and see this talk. If you want to help us contribute to sort of improving this, you know, the notebook and everything is in GitHub, tracking issues. You don't have to contribute code. You can, you know, add issues with ideas or things that we should be thinking about while we're doing the data analysis. I'll probably do more live streaming of this next week. Tomorrow at 11 a.m. I will be doing a live streamed code review. It's my normal Fridays, and so if you're interested in learning more about open source, tune in tomorrow at 11 a.m. on Twitch or YouTube. And coming on the 26th, I'm going to try and do sort of an extended live stream where I go all the way from sort of finding an issue inside of Spark, you know, writing the code all the way through to code review and probably merge. We'll probably do the code review and merge on a different PR rather than the one that we work on, but you can see the entire life cycle. And so that'll be April 26th. And if you want, you can, you know, follow me on YouTube or Twitch to find out the exact time of that. So thank you everyone for tuning in. You know, please message me with questions. If you have pull requests you'd like to see reviewed live, you know, you can just email me or Twitter DM me, and I hope to see you all around. Have a wonderful week, y'all. I'm gonna go press this ending button.